The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink Community TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Welcome back to another episode of the Unlikely Innovators. I'm Mike Commito, joined as always by Steve Curvell. And today we're pleased to be joined by Kerry Lamarche, Executive Director of Kivi Park, a 480-acre outdoor destination in Sudbury dedicated to recreation, wellness, and community. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to embarrass myself really quickly off the hop. Oh, no. Is it Kivi or Kivi?
Honestly, the record straight everyone for the says it can go either way.
Okay.
So I've taught everyone, so Kivi, yeah, it doesn't.
What do you say?
Kivi.
Kivi.
Okay, so that's what
we will say.
Kivi.
Yeah.
I'm going to screw it up.
What do you say? Because you were trying to tell me it was Kivi.
No, I'm not trying to tell you it's Kivi. What did I say? Kivi. That's what I say. Now I'm screwing myself up here.
Just roll with it. So it's Kivi.
And you ever know the background of it?
Yeah, let's get a little bit of the background
Kivi
first.
means rock, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And it was Lily Fielding's maiden name.
Right.
Also.
Yeah.
Cool that a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and I think, so my mother-in-law's Finn, and she says it, but now I can't think of how she says it. Because it's a Finn last name, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to reserve my judgment until I hear her say it again. Okay. But we will say Kivi for the purposes of this interview.
And that backstory is great. One of the things we wanted to ask you, we talk about unlikely journeys on the show oftentimes, and executive director of a park is not necessarily a job that they talk about when you're going through high school, for example. I think of my guidance counselor and some of the jobs that they told me I could do.
Clown college.
Yeah.
Look at me now. But can you maybe talk about your journey and how you ended up where you are in the role that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a long one, so I'll make it the short version.
No, we love long ones.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
everyone teases me I've had a million jobs, and I have. But I'm not from Sudbury. So from Sarnia, Ontario, came up to do the SPAD program. Moved to Toronto, didn't like it. Was always traveling up to see friends. So came up back to Sudbury, but then the job pool gets smaller as far as a SPAD job, right? So kind of, decided I'd get my MBA just because I'm like, okay, it'll, make my job options a little bit broader. But then met my husband, had kids, that kind of story. So I was working for myself, got into the health and wellness piece, was using Kivi Park, obviously, on my own. And there was a volunteer meeting, so I just showed up to the volunteer meeting, and it was really exciting. And at the end, they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're looking for an executive director." And went home, had a conversation with my husband, and 3 days later, I think I took the job. So that's the shortened version of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think the cool piece is that I really felt like I gave up that SPAD piece when I moved back to Sudbury, the opportunities being so small. And when I took the job, I joked that I honestly thought I was going to wear khakis and have a bear whistle and walk the trails every morning. This is the job I thought I was taking.
Like a park ranger?
Yeah, 100%, right? And then, but on a pleasant surprise, it's so SPAD. It's very dynamic. There's strategic planning. There's facility management. There's, running an NPO. There's balancing budgets, and every day is really different. So it was kind of cool that I didn't know I was coming back to my SPAD roots.
Yeah.
But I certainly did, for sure.
And had you worked in the field after graduating from the SPAD program? Were you working in sports down in Toronto before, coming up to Sudbury?
I did event management.
Okay.
Yeah, for a few years, and then had to come back to my roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you could think about Kivi as a leisure walk, but you can also think about it as there's lots of sports that go on there too.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a good tie-in for what your initial training was. At the outset, you talked about Kivi meaning rock, and that sort of gives us a window into the history with Lily Fielding.
Yeah.
Can you give us sort of history of how the park sort of came to be? Because it was donated land, if I'm not mistaken. And how did that, can you give us, the viewers, sort of a background on how that came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lily Fielding being a super passionate Finn outdoor, loved skiing, loved everything outdoors. And I think understanding that the best gift that you can give, obviously, is outdoor recreational space, right? So when the Long Lake Public School was being torn down, I think everyone knows that end of town's beautiful, and obviously it could be torn down and then big homes be built up. And there was already a trail network back there. So to preserve that, purchase a school, donated those 12.5 acres to the city, just to sort of protect and preserve. And then I think just through excitement and ideas, and that it just sort of grew, and they kept buying parcels of land until it became the 480 acres. And then developed that, I think, in about 2.5 years, because again, before my time, into what you see today, well, what you would have seen in 2020. So the ski trails, the hiking trails, Crowley Lake, which is stunning, and then all the equipment we needed. And that's how the original, gift, and that was about $7.5 million in, work, operations, and everything it took to build Kivi, which is great. And then in 2020, the Kivi Park Community Foundation was born. And then when we became a charity in 2023, we now, as the foundation, own that, asset, along with all the things we built over the last, 5 years now, since we've been our own entity.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because people tend to think of parks as like a municipal activity, but I think this is a pretty rare example of how a nonprofit a charity can actually come together and build something like that.
Absolutely.
I think that's a rare thing, right?
For sure. We go to park conferences, which are, they're super fun, and they're all over Canada. And we
Park
do
conferences?
They're awesome. The people are park people, right? So they're just so laid back. It's such a positive space. It's awesome. And the learning there is great. But what we realized when we were going to these is we move at a way faster pace than most parks, because again, taking more of a business model versus something that's potentially government owned, we can really, and we don't have the red tape, the same red tape that they would, so we can have dynamic ideas and move on them pretty quickly. So that's been really fun to see.
That's a good amount of freedom.
Yeah.
One of the things, I guess we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the logistical challenges and some of the fun things you have around managing the park.
Yeah, because I think it's a non-trivial piece of land that
yes.
I've traversed it a few times, Mike, and I know that we actually did it as a team building exercise.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We brought all of our folks out there. I think it was a couple.
We've done it almost every fall. We'll bring the whole department out and go for a hike. We do not have fires. We're not that.
Thank you.
That group
or fireworks.
That does, or fireworks. No.
The fireworks is just
only.
Between the people walking in the
The learning, right? The sparks that fly.
That's right.
Yeah. No, they've really enjoyed it, and actually my VP often brings the directors for a hike as well. So I've kind of passed that down to the group. But it's a great way to just reconnect outside of the office and just kind of do something different, right?
Do you see that a lot? Do people use it as a team build? Have you seen that before?
Yeah, we've tried to grow that piece of it. It's a harder segment to grow, but I feel like we're in that space where businesses are investing more in that type of thing. So we're seeing the small bits here and there, and it definitely grows. But anyone who does it comes back saying how wonderful it is. I mean, Crowley Lake with your team, if you haven't done that, is just we've got 30 pieces of equipment. It's like a private lake. There's no motorized vehicles. It is a hidden gem, is what people call it, and it is. Just to get your team out there it's lovely.
Okay, well, I think
that's next.
That's all I needed to hear. We'll do that for the next team building activity. So, anyway, but we said we were going to go to a break, so we're going to go to a break right now, and we'll be back shortly with Kerry Lamarche. So we're back with Kerry Lamarche, Executive Director of Kivi Park. Kerry, before the break, and actually I think in the intro you talked about joining Kivi and thinking you might be like a park ranger. And I just spent a portion of my summer, I guess a week of this past summer. I'm rambling now. This is not great TV, but I had spent a good week watching this show on Netflix called Untamed, which is about Yosemite Park, and that's a very expansive park as well. But Kivi is also quite large. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you encounter with a park of that size, with so many people coming in and out? You've got volunteers, you've got visitors. We alluded off the air about people maybe taking liberties with some of the things that they do in the park, but how do you manage all that and encourage people to come knowing that this is still a big parcel of land, a gem that we want people to use in our community, but obviously as managing that land comes with some responsibility? Yeah,
no, it's certainly challenging. There's 19, 20, 25 different ways to enter the park. So we do have our main entrance, but not everybody uses it, and that's fair, and that's what we want people to do. But that poses a challenge too. So that's why we have our digital passes. So sometimes we've got volunteers checking passes and stuff, because it's great to have people use the park, but we need that ongoing support for operations. But yeah, just the vast physicalness of it. I have an operations manager, and every week they've got a to-do list that's maybe 15 long, and then maybe you get to 2 of them because 10 things, like a tree has fallen and there's a flood, and all the things that could go wrong, they do go wrong. But in that sense, we do use a bit of technology, because we used to, at the beginning, someone would be like, oh, a tree fell, and you're like, where? And they're like, oh, by that tree, by the garbage can on that one trail, and you're like, oh my God, like out of our 85 kilometers of trail, how do you find it? So for that technology piece, we use What 3 Words. I don't know if anyone's heard of that app.
Yeah.
It's cool. So every 3 meters of the entire world has 3 unique words to it.
Oh.
So 911 started using it. Some of the Uber drivers used to use it. So you're not like, I'm at the door at the Fairmont, and you can actually give like a 3-word location versus a GPS location. So that's pretty cool. So if you're in Kivi and you see 3 words on the trail on a sign, which lots of people ask us questions about, that's actually your What 3 Words location.
Oh.
Yeah. So
when I first saw that, my wife knew what that was, but I didn't. So she told me about it.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah, and the conversation piece is always funny around that, because they'll be like, what is that What 3 Words things? And I'm like, What 3 Words? And they're like, no, the What 3 Words. I'm like, no, exactly. Like, it's What 3 Words. So some of them are pretty silly, but all of our garbage cans are marked with those, all of our bird feeders, and that's sort of simplified, at least, finding pieces that need maintenance, which obviously was a really big challenge. But I think the big piece for managing that size is just like the sheer number of volunteers we have.
Yeah.
We've got probably 100 volunteers, 25 of them are super active. You'll see them on a weekly basis, and just to deploy them all the time to be like, watch out for this and report back this, and then they're doing lawn maintenance and cutting trees that have fallen on the trails. Like, really, we only have at this point 3 hired full-time staff, and it really is the volunteers who help manage such a big space.
Yeah, and how does that fluctuate with the seasons? Because obviously, you've got summer, a lot of activity, but also really hot, potentially really dry, which is dangerous. Vacations, and in the winter, you've got cross-country skiing, the skating path. Like, there's so much, and it changes from season to season. How does that kind of impact the way that you guys manage the park?
It's changed over the years, I think. At the beginning, it was like, everybody show up and just, help where you can.
Yeah.
And I think for retaining volunteers, we have jobs, so we go for different reasons. You can get paid, you can have promotions. There's various reasons why you take a job, but you only volunteer because you're passionate and because there's purpose, and time is so limited. And so you have to sort of learn how each volunteer works and what they want to do. And we've moved from sort of that, like, you do what you want and just go, is like, they want roles and specific, like, this is your baby, and have some autonomy and stuff. So it's really the way that we've sort of moved in that direction. And then that way, if they're going on vacation or they're a bit busy, they feel really connected to this one role, and they make sure it gets done, or that someone can kind of fill in that role for them. And that's sort of the way that we've sort of progressed to make sure that, based on people's limited amount of time, that it's purposeful and meaningful for them.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question. I want to delve a bit deeper on technology in a second, but I told my my friend that I'd ask you about forest school.
I love forest
so his
school.
kids are in forest school, and I honestly made fun of him when I first heard of it, because
You're a good friend.
Yeah, I know. Because it kind of sounded silly, but then he started to tell me about it. So tell us, like, that forest school is something that's hosted at Kivi Park, right? Tell us about that.
There's nothing more genuinely, I think, beautiful at Kivi than that, because it is young kids. So I believe the age probably starts around almost 2, like they're really little, and it can go all the way up to grade 1 before they actually have to sort of enter the actual school program. So so they just have school at the park, and it's not formal school. It's like play-based learning. It's nature-based. Watching them out and being creative and building little, pretend tent, like little huts and stuff. And it's wonderful to see. It's super fun. So not run by us, but like you said, hosted at the park. And it's just great to be able to support initiatives like that.
Yeah, he was saying that they had roadkill that they were looking at one time, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a good way to learn about biology.
Yeah, it was a biology class for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned the 3 words system. What other sort of uses of technology can you tell us about that have been sort of unique to Kivi? And how does technology play a role in where you are at now and where you guys hope to grow?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're very, my board's very progressive, right? As far as pushing me to, not necessarily find benchmarks and copy them, but like set that benchmark in at least the parks industry, right? We're not very known for our use of technology.
Right.
So Teams would be the first thing, which again, everyone uses Teams, but back in 2020 when it was new and most of my volunteers were over 60, that was a big transition to our first kind of piece of technology. And then the What 3 Words, and then we use Sophie, which is actually, I believe, developed at Cambrian for mining.
With us,
with us,
with you guys.
We'd helped develop some of their offerings.
So they've donated that to us. So we had this sort of custom, but more of like a sort of scaled down version of that, what you use for safety and health management of safety and stuff at the park, which has been really helpful. I'm a huge user of AI, and I think anyone who's put in a position where they're short-staffed always and will be forever, being a charity, that that's become my 3rd and 4th full-time employee, just to make sure that we're producing as fast as we can. And the latest thing that we have our new trail counters. So before you'd have to go in and like plug into them wherever they were, and get this really weird data and extrapolate it. But now it's digital, and send it to my phone, and it's like this is how many people have been in your park today, and this is where your high traffic areas. And so we'll probably invest in a few more of those as well. And then from a security standpoint, we've got all of our cameras, and like it sounds funny to say that digital door codes have been a huge helper, but when you have 100 volunteers, and you can't be everywhere at once, like even those small things really help us be more efficient.
Yeah, you can't drive somewhere.
I'll meet you and let you in, and it's just going to take me half an hour, and all you have to do is get the lawnmower, right? So everybody having their codes, and they can access things when they need to. That's a huge thing when you just have that big of a volunteer base.
When you said cameras, it made me think about like wildlife cameras. Is there anything, and if there isn't, don't worry about it, but has there been any like sort of interesting or surprising wildlife stories that have gone on at the park that you can think of? Not
too surprising, like, because you'd anticipate there always is.
Yeah.
So we have some deer, which I didn't think there would be deer. Even at the front of the park on Nina's Way, we've had deer. We always have a bear and a couple cubs.
Yeah.
I was just moving a sign the other day, and I'm usually not in the park. I'm usually behind my computer, but it just happened that I had to do this. And 2 baby cubs just come run across me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a mom somewhere for sure. Like they're
nearby.
So young.
Yeah.
But yeah, the standard. We've got beavers in the ponds, and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we're rescuing little things. Like you'll find a falcon that fell on the ground, and you got to call Turtle Pond or somebody to come take care of it. But yeah, just sort of the run of the mill. If you ran a park, kind of the expected things you'd run into.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break, but coming up next, we'll have more with Kerry Lamarche. All right, we're back, and we're joined by Kerry Lamarche from Kivi Park. Every time I go on, like in the park, sometimes even only a couple weeks can go by, and I always notice something new when I come back. Can you tell us, about some of the recent new additions and just what is planned, like in the near future for the park?
Yeah, for sure. And so since 2020, we've actually invested $3.5 million in capital.
Oh my!
Which is huge, and that's all government support, donations. We're lucky enough to have a lot of really great partners. So there was the Crowley Lake expansion. There's our solar lights. We have a brand new maintenance building that's just stunning. And when you come from working out of a little tiny garage that's kind of dilapidated with all your volunteers to actually a maintenance building, so those are the sort of the big foundational things that we did. And then since then, there's a new pavilion going up. So that one's really exciting. So it'll have like full power, and like so your corporate wellness stuff or your corporate retreat stuff you can have in there. We've revamped the cafe, and that's been a really fun addition. Obviously, there's nothing like going to the park and having, on a cold day, you're having your hot chocolate. On a hot day, you're having a papaya pop. So that's been really, really well. The igloo is a funny one. So we hosted OFSA cross-country skiing, which was really exciting for us. And we needed a timing trailer with a window. And it was like $2,000 to rent. I'm like, I can do better than that. I'm like, let's get an igloo. Like, I want people to come to Sudbury, go in OFSA, and be like, this is the coolest place ever. So we got an inflatable igloo. We got this plastic igloo, and it said it came from Poland. And it's gonna take 8 hours to build, and it took us 3 days in a snowstorm. And every hexagon had 11 screws that you had to do by hand. But then once you got to the top, you had to be outside the top of the hole and then lean over. And I'm the only one that had long enough arms to reach. So I was stuck with that job. But when you peel off the inside, like H goes with H and J goes with J, you don't know what goes with that anymore. So it's now permanent. So we thought it was something we would take down and only have in the winter, but it's actually permanent. So we moved it over, and then we don't have air conditioning in it yet. So it's like a greenhouse in the summer. You actually can't sit in it.
It's a sauna.
So we'll figure out how to do it in the winter. But once fall comes, we're going to get some better furniture in there, and it'll just be a really cool place to hang out and maybe have a birthday party or, enjoy your snacks from the cafe and hang out there and get out of the elements. So that one's really cool. But the biggest thing I'm excited about, when I went for that initial volunteer meeting, they talked about this dream of getting to Killarney, and I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, right? Like that would, be so neat, but how could you ever do that? And anyways, we're on our way. So from a fund, we don't have the funds yet, but we've hired a consultant company from BC. They hiked it twice, so we hiked it with them a few legs. So we've got our roadmap, and then we should be getting the permits in a short while, and then it's just a matter of fundraising, and then starting that build. So that will be, the next.
How
really
far
cool
is
thing.
that?
Yeah,
35K has like the crow flies, but because there's so much wetland back there, they really had to navigate in and around because you don't want any bridges in, you want as much, least amount of maintenance as you could possibly do right back there. So I think in the end, it'll probably be closer to 60, 55 to 60.
That's unreal.
So you'd be able to, in theory, walk from Kivi to Killarney through this trail system?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with 3 campsites, with multiple campsites
you'd
at
need
each
to,
location.
right?
Yeah.
Or if you're running it.
Yeah, you
There
would
you
probably
go.
run the whole
I
thing, right?
can't. I know people that would and could, but not me.
Yeah.
It'd be a great ultra marathon course, right? Like a
exactly.
start to finish, and then you like end in Killarney and have a spa day.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. So that's really, and then possibly a chalet. So we're working on the feasibility of how would we fund a chalet and then keep it going in perpetuity, right? Like how would those funds be kind of guaranteed? So no matter what happened, it would run itself. But yeah, those are the next big aspirational.
That Killarney thing kind of just blew my mind because
that's
thinking about it geographically, it's like that's where that is, and then you go straight out there. Now you wouldn't have to acquire that land, would that?
No, just a work permit.
Just a work permit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So very different from what we've done before, which was a land use permit, which means you have full control of who comes in and out and that sort of thing. This would just be for something amazing to be able to do for the community and just a bookmark to really cool places, Killarney and Kivi, which we think obviously. So there wouldn't be really a fee, or it would be minimal, so that we just really need the work permit to do it, which is why it's quick.
Yeah. I could see the branding now. Killarney and Kivi, it really goes well together, right?
Which is why everyone thinks we might need a chalet, because you started in, you want to end somewhere special no matter which direction you go. So having a really nice kind of bookend on each side.
That's a
nice.
fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I love that.
Can't wait to see that unfold.
Yeah, so I'll be busy for the next few years. So it'll be a lot of fundraising to do, but something we're
The ideas
super
make
excited
people
about.
busy, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
When you were talking about the igloo, I just wanted to share this aside. During the pandemic, we had bought this like half dome climbing structure for the girls, thinking it would be an easy thing to set up, but like it's like this like geodesic shape. So it ended up being like this like 3-person job because no one person could hold all these, and it ended up taking like an entire day with me, my father, and my brother-in-law, even though we weren't supposed to be that close, and we were very close because one person's holding and screwing in and not over tightening, and it was anyway, so it'll never leave our backyard because I don't want to attempt to to take it down and then have to put it up somewhere else, but
it's structural now.
It's a fixture in the backyard. But one of the things I wanted to say as well is, and I think this is probably a reason why I should be going to Kivi more, is when my girls think of Kivi, they call it the zipline park.
Oh, okay.
Because there's that swing that comes around, so I think they need to experience more of the
rest
park.
of it,
So they're not. It's not just about that one swing. It's like there's more we could do there. We can go for a walk. We can do all these other things. But no. I want to go to the zipline park.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, also you should. Like I said, Crowley Lake. If anyone hasn't been to Crowley Lake, it's awesome. It's beautiful. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we let you go or let you leave, I guess I got to stop using podcast problems. Before we let you leave the studio, Kerry, and of course you're here on your own free will, so you can leave at any time. But we always like to ask our guests, what you're doing outside of the important work and obviously the upcoming busy work you're gonna have with Kivi, with that expansion plan. We had some research. We had somebody tell us that we needed to ask you about High Rocks. And I don't know if I'm even saying that correctly.
Yeah.
I am. Okay, good. We're off to a good start. But we won't lie, we don't know much about it, so we're hoping that you can explain to us what High Rocks is and how you got into it and why it's meaningful to you.
Perfect. Yeah. No, High Rocks is a hybrid sport. So taking a mix between like if an ultra marathoner and a CrossFitter had a baby, it's kind of what High Rocks kind of was born out of, right? So a lot of running, more than CrossFit would be, and not as heavy weights kind of thing. So it's a really new sport. Started in Europe. It's kind of like blowing up all over the world. It's really actually hard even to get into an event now. But just coincidentally, like I think everything works out, my gym became a High Rocks gym. I'm like, what is this? And when I dug in a bit more, I'm like, I think this is my jam. Like I think I actually, might be good at this. And because I'm kind of anal retentive at things, I got a coach and, really delved into it. And it was just, a really nice thing from like, having kids, and you sort of like, you were competitive maybe when you were a teen, and then you have kids, and, kind of life gets busy, and, you don't focus on yourself. And then now my kids are older and don't really want that much to do with me. So it leaves me a bit more time to, invest in myself and just do something really fun. So it's really nice to, have that balance when you're working, hard during the day to, do something for yourself and get some, energy blown off. And yeah, it's been fun.
What would the breakdown be like for a competition with the running and the CrossFit aspect? Like how much are we running? What kind of exercise are we doing on the CrossFit side?
It's always the exact same.
Okay.
So CrossFit, like your surprise, this is your workout of the day kind of thing. High Rocks is the same competition, so it's 8 kilometers.
Yeah.
And then in between every kilometer is a station. So it's between like wall balls and lunges and burpee broad jumps and sled push and sled pull.
Oh, cool.
And the really nice thing I think about it versus running is like your family comes to watch you run and they're like, see you later.
Yeah.
And you go and you come back, versus these are all in an arena. So from like a cheering on your spouse or your partner or whatever, it's really fun because they can go and they can like follow you around at every station, and so it's fun. So it's nice for my husband and I to, you know, take a trip somewhere just for the excuse, and then you know, I do my high rocks and then we, you know, vacation somewhere fun.
I'll tell you, it sounds easy. I'm kidding, of course. Kerry, thanks so much for telling us the story of Kivi and what you got going on there. It's just a real gem of our community, and thank you for doing the work of keeping it available for so many in the community and beyond. You're doing fine work, so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I don't believe in you.
I know.
Oh no.
He has to think of something to say.
Well, I'm going to go more simple today.
Okay.